Okay, well that's a problem. Here. I guess you could say it's winter. I guess you could say it's wintertime now. It's hard to hide at this point. If you've been following along, whatever that's worth, welcome back. It's cold. It's something like I waited until the temperature warmed up before I came out this morning. I think the temperature's doubled. It was 1 degree and now it's 2. Hence the hat and gloves, overalls. One of the things I've kind of, I don't say learned, but come to realize over the years is, and this pertains to my hat. Somebody's probably going to give me heck for this hat, but what I used to do is run outside in not enough clothes and, right before dark and rush through all the chores. And what that made me do is hate doing chores. So nowadays, I got my axe. Nowadays, if I dress comfortably, come out well before dark so I don't feel rushed, or just wait till after dark and bring a light. Where'd I put the axe? I think it's in the mule. What happens now is here it is. I don't rush through stuff, so things get done more completely. And to be honest, even though it takes longer, it's a more pleasant experience doing chores when you're not rushed or chopping your foot off with an axe. But anyway, we got, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches of snow. That's on top of, like, I don't know, almost a half an inch of ice probably. It kind of, I don't know if you can see the ice, but it kind of wrecked my shade cloth in one area. I guess we go over and take a look at that. When I left the shade cloth up, I meant to take all of it down. I got most of it down, but the wind is one thing, but we got ice, and what that did was there's wind can't get through this anymore, so it's literally a big solid sail catching all the wind, and it took down a section, but it just broke the zip ties. That's kind of why I use plastic zip ties. I've seen some people, I do use some metal ones on a few areas, but I don't like using metal on the areas that are prone to tear, because then it's going to tear the shade cloth. I'd rather just break the zip tie. And I lost my axe again. Anyway, I've been trying to come out in the mornings, make sure everybody's up. I moved some shelters around to help protect from the wind. There's a water situation. I do have heaters. I've got heaters run down into the water tanks, but I don't run them all the time. Maybe I should, but these deer, think about deer in the wild. When stuff freezes up, they don't have anything to drink. Now I don't want that for our deer, but I'll break the ice at least once a day. Like today I'll do it twice. I'll do it in the morning and then again in the evening. But yeah, I think that's plenty good, rather than pay to heat the water when it's 1 degree outside. What I do is I've got the heater on a timer, and so it runs for a few hours in the morning and a few in the evening. Like right there, that ice was only like an inch thick. Where they've been drinking, where I've been chopping the hole, it's like 6 inches thick on the rest of it. But if they are thirsty, that'll give them. I'll give them enough to drink. But I normally go out and, like I said, make sure everybody's up. The bottle fawns come running like usual. These guys do pretty good in the cold. You'd think they'd be hunkered down. Oop. Nope. You'd think they'd be hunkered down in the trees, but a lot of the times the does are just out in the middle of everything. Come say hi. But yeah, a lot of times the does are just out walking around in the snow rather than staying hunkered down. I have planted some trees out in these pens. I need to put more out here, but just for a little more protection, not so much in the winter time, but for shade in summer. There's the does out there. They were just out in the middle of the pen rather than hunkered down, so this cold doesn't really seem to bother them. They seem to do pretty well. I need to buy a big bale of straw, but I did bring a bunch of hay out here the other day in these shelters. Give the deer a place to come to bed down. They're not laying on the bare ground, but hay's not really the best for that. For one, it looks like they've eaten a lot of it, but better than bare ground. That's more telephone poles laying on the property. I stacked in one pen. I stacked like 3 of them high, but in this one I just put one big one, and there's 2 shelters. With prevailing wind, or not prevailing wind, but north, kind of blocks northwest wind. They're running around like crazy this morning. Goofball. And they've been bedding under that consistently, so looks like everybody is up and warm. And anyway, with the water situation, when I dug this water line out to the pens, if I could do it again, I guess I would have done it differently, but I tried to get lucky, which really works out. But when I had the excavator out here, I hit a lot of rock, which I expected, but I hit big enough rock that I couldn't dig a lot of it out with the size excavator that I rented, and so I ended up not getting the water line as deep as I wanted to. I hoped it would be okay. We can get cold temperatures here, but they're normally not prolonged periods of extreme cold in the southern part of the state. Anyway, long story short, the water line freezes when it gets down to like 0 degrees. So the rest of the water lines to each individual tank and pin, I ran it above ground, like overhead line. rest of the water line is run overhead in a way that theoretically it'll drain when I'm done with it. So I just fill the tanks, drain the line, unhook the hose, which isn't great, but it's really not that bad. Do it every few days is plenty often enough. I don't use this tank in the corner really very often. Just when the deer are in the corner pen, so I haven't been heating it the last couple years. But this valve, water, that doesn't feel good. Shoot. Okay, well that's a problem. Well, this stinks. Normally the setup I have here, because this water line freezes, that goes right there. Because it freezes, I have a product called a freeze miser. If you're a farmer in cold temperatures, you may have heard of it. It basically is a valve that lets the water trickle out. Alright, I'm going to hope that that's good until it thaws. Probably not going to be anytime soon. Anyway, the freeze miser lets the water trickle out when the temperatures get below like 37 degrees, something like that. When the water temperature gets below that, so it keeps the line from freezing. That's what I've done in the past, and it works fine here. I didn't get it put on this time. I'm not going to say the cold snuck up on me, but I didn't think about it. I thought I'd have it there, so that stinks. That means we'll be hauling water by hand, which I love to do. I'm pretty frozen. Alright, well, I have to go find a water barrel and haul water out here by hand until this thing thaws out. There's no way I can heat it, I don't think. So, oh well. Well, my water line finally thawed. We had 2 days of 50-degree weather, and that was enough to thaw the line. So I was able to fill the water tanks, and I was able to get my freeze miser put onto the water line. Now, so yesterday was 50-something degrees. Right now it's 14 and blowing, I don't know. You can see the shade cloth blowing 30 plus. So if you can't hear me, I'm still experimenting on taking shade cloth down versus leaving it up. I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but when the wind blows, it's just like a sail on this fence. You might be able to see it blowing. So I have been taking it down. I had intended to take this section down, but I just didn't get to it. Section over there runs north-south. It doesn't beat up too bad, so I just kind of secure it up. I'd sort of done the same thing with this side, but it's too exposed. Wind. Anyway, set up now. Well, that's getting all wet. So I've got, this is the water line that was freezing up. It runs, I don't know,
250 feet back to the well house. I couldn't get it deep enough to keep it from freezing. With the equipment I had. Anyway, I leave it open. I've got a Y here, splitter. This is where I hook up my water line, going to the tanks in the deer pen. 3 different tanks right now. That line's above ground, so I just have to hook it up, fill them, disconnect it, and drain the line. On this side is a product called a freeze miser, and I'm guessing everybody has heard of that. Basically, it's a spring that when it's above, they say like 37 degrees, it has the valve closed, and below that temperature it slowly opens up the valve to trickle water out. So it'll trickle water out as long as the water temperature, and there's probably a little bit of effect from the air temperature, below 37. The downside is it runs water everywhere. Some people have hooked up pipes to it. This is what I'm not using right now. It's not a big deal. Obviously, I don't blow this tank. Water line. At least I'm not hauling water anymore. So I won't make that mistake again. But we also have, obviously, a cold spell. And it's supposed to get really cold tonight and really cold tomorrow night. Potentially below 0 and wind. So I've got some old, they're hay bales, they're not straw, but got some hay bales that I'm going to carry out on the tractor and spread some hay out in the shelters out of the deer pens. There's the other pain about wind. Open these gates with shade cloth. They were about to pull you over. Farming deer is no different than any other kind of farming. Something's always a pain. Nothing makes the job easier. Everything that happens makes it harder. Anyway, I'm gonna go put out some hay and enjoy the nice weather.